All right, my peoples, it is time for primer, possibly color. If I get the compressor set to about 50 psi, we've got the gun set to about. She ready. She ready. Yo, what's good, my peoples? It's IllRoller16 bringing you guys another video. This is going to be part one of two videos. This one is pretty much paint prep and primer of the engine bay on the Mazdaspeed 6. Stay tuned for part two, which is going to have, again, the base coat, clear coat, all the pretty stuff. But this is the leg work leading up to that. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for future content. I got plenty of more Mazda content coming up from the MX-3s and the Mazdaspeeds. Anyways, without further ado, let's get to the video. All right, my peoples, going to clean up the engine bay and degrease it. All electricals have been covered. We've got the with a bunch of plastic bags, ABS module, electronic covered, AC plugs covered, cables, even though they're not electrical, I just covered on the shifter cables. Brake master cylinder has an electrical plug. I think this goes to the body control module. Fuse box, I didn't have time to remove it, and I really need to get this cleaned up so I can start sanding sometime soon. Brake master cylinder, clutch master cylinder. And this is like the fan relay, fan wiring and stuff like that. So I'm gonna push it back, and I'm gonna use this with some gloves, scrub brush, gloves, and clean it up as much as possible, degrease it as much as possible. And then I can start sanding all this up here. All right, my peoples, let's go. All right, so here we are pushing the car back. I decided, again, just to put a plastic bag on everything before I washed it, and I'll take off all the electronics and stuff at a later time. Time was of the essence, and if I waited any longer, this video would be happening. So pretty much pushed it back and did what I could. Scrubbed everything with the brush. This is Purple Power dish soap and water to dilute it. Let everything soak. Everything's just soaking in Purple Power. Probably have to do this 2 or 3 times. About to grab a brush and start scrubbing. Alright, so as you can see, I had some dish soap, some Purple Power, and a foam cannon, spraying this thing down very carefully, agitating all the dirt with the brush, rinsing off. And yeah, did this about 2 or 3 times. All right, so end result is everything's very, very clean. As clean as it's gonna get. I'll get in the nooks and crannies before paint. Now I have to start sanding, but everything's pretty clean. No dirt, no grime anywhere. All the heavy stuff is gone. So just deciding on a color for the engine bay. Probably just gonna keep it silver, just really glossy with heavy clear. And yeah. All right, my peoples, so got done cleaning the engine bay with degreaser, brake cleaner, and a citrus cleaner. Still finding little pieces of dirt and stuff like that, but overall, also I took off the firewall extension. I guess that's the strut bracing, so I got that one, and the big piece up here. I'll spray those separately. I want to make sure I get paint on every surface. So again, it's an engine bay. It doesn't have to be SEMA show quality, at least not for me. That's the firewall. That's the strut bracing that makes the firewall and the chassis rigid. There are your drains for water, and then obviously your windshield wipers and stuff go in here. All that's left, I got to pull that harness through, start masking off, and start sanding. Been running a little slow because I'm learning about the car as I'm taking it apart, so no rush, but I am gonna probably smooth out this seam sealer. They laid it on extra thick, so during sanding I'll leave it flush. Have to undo the power steering. Probably spray the subframe, mask it off, and spray the subframe black while I have it out. So again, while everything's out, you know, make sure you take advantage if you're taking on a project like this. Take off the fenders probably. One side of the fender is metallic, one side of the fender is matte, so I'll probably have to mask and spray the fender also separately when I'm spraying the engine bay. And yeah, making sure I'm getting under all the nooks and crannies underneath and all that stuff. So stay tuned. Okay, so here we are taking off the electronics, so the rest of the wiring harness with the fuse box. And then next I took off the power steering pump, I believe, and the power steering lines. This way I'm able to work more effectively and more comfortably. Next is taking off all the stickers. I took pictures of them just in case I ever want to get them recreated. Took high-res photos on my camera, on my smartphone, and on my DSLR. Just in case you really want to be 100% OEM, take pictures of it, take it to a sign shop or a sticker shop, and they should be able to recreate it for you. Used a plastic razor blade. Bunch of these little stickers from the factory also that I removed. They cover up bolt holes. Next, taking off the fender. If I remember correctly, it was about four or five bolts to get the fenders off. A couple bolts that were on the bottom. And then you have to detach it from the side skirt and pops right out. Same thing on the passenger side. Had a bit of a tight squeeze. I don't have a large garage, so had to do the best I could. All right, so we're gonna hit the subframe with a little bit of semi-gloss black or gloss black. Got a couple surface rust spots Just a quick blast. And it doesn't really matter if it gets anywhere because we're going to be sanding the engine bay anyway, so that's it. All right, my peoples, real quick, what I'm doing is I am going through this with the razor blade and some gloves, of course. I am going through all the seam sealer and smoothing it out. They just glob it on from the factory. So again, the strut towers are really the main focus in this engine bay. The engine takes up pretty much the whole engine bay except over here, since we're taking away the fuse box. We're relocating the fuse box, we're relocating the battery, and relocating some of the wires over here. So the strut towers really are the main point of focus, or main focus point, or whatever. So just going through here with the razor blade and again thinning it out. You can epoxy it, you can use some glaze or some Bondo over it and smooth it out. All depends on how OCD you want to get. I'm just smoothing it out because it's free and it's right here. But again, if you're trying to build like a show car, a SEMA car, or something like that, then you may want to go the extra step and, you know, Bondo or glaze it. You know, weld up all these little holes and stuff like that. All right, so after using the razor blade, got to do some sanding with the cordless DA sander that I had there and some 320 grit. And then under the hood, I went ahead straight to a scuff pad. First, I cleaned it, of course, and then a scuff pad. I want to say it was the equivalent of 400 grit. It was the maroon scuff pad. Took off the sticker, of course, took a picture of it also. And again, took my safety precautions, put on my, I want to say the NS95 mask, I think it's called. Just to protect your lungs, or what's left of them. Here we are, cut off a couple of unnecessary studs that I'm not going to use. Just to clean up, again, the strut towers, which are the main focus. All right, my peoples, so we are ready for primer finally. Went ahead and sanded everything, all the sand scratches over with 320. I started with 80 grit to knock off the Bondo on the strut towers. But you have to go over it with 320 because 80 is not good for primer. It will shrink, supposedly. Then I scuffed it up with a scuff pad, which is about 400 grit. Primer likes to stick to 320, 400. Scuffed up the hood. So now I'm going to go ahead and clean, start masking, and get ready to spray primer. Then we'll sand the primer with 320 and 400, possibly 600, but I think 400 will be better for adhesion, and that's what we're going to do. Let's go. All right, so this took like an hour and a half, which is pretty much the final prep before the primer. I bought a big ass roll of this 3M painter's plastic, I guess you could say. Well worth it. Using it, it's static cling, so it's definitely worth it. So I just covered up both sides of the garage, turned it into a makeshift paint booth, and it actually ended up working just fine. All right, my peoples, it is time for primer, possibly color if I can get it sanded today. And this is on the Mazdaspeed 6. We're going to do the same for the Turbo MX3. Here we got some of the stuff. Let me show you. A NACO gun. This is a 1.7 millimeter high volume, low pressure gun. I'm using this one for primer, and then I'm borrowing a friend's Tecna. I think it's made by Devil Bliss. I'm borrowing his gun for base coat and clear coat. Here we have all the color stuff. Let me just kind of show you guys. We got cups, strainers. I've got more stuff. Here's the base coat, instructions, primer, that's the clear coat, polyurethane clear coat. I kind of got something middle of the line, slow reducer for a metallic, and what else? Hardener. And I think that's about it, my peoples. Looking forward to this. We're gonna do silver. I was thinking about doing like a really nice candy blue under the hood. I know I've always kept it one color under the hood. I changed it on the brown car with the orange. I think I got away with it on that car. You know, again, it's not for everybody, but I like it. It works because the exterior of the car is so serious. On the Mazdaspeed 6, though, I don't think I can get away with it with the different color engine bay. So I'm sticking with silver. Gonna play it safe on this one. Nice and clean, serious, grown and sexy. So that's what we're gonna do for the engine bay. So right now the engine bay is sanded to 320 grit for the primer. That way it has something to grip to. We're gonna spray the primer. We're gonna sand it to 400 with the DA. And then we're going to spray base coat and clear coat. You can go up to 600. I would do 600, 800 on an exterior panel, but for the engine bay with all the high heat, I want the most adhesion as possible. So I'm gonna stick with 400 for max on the sanding. Also, more MX3 content coming up. We got these bad boys back. These are the rear seats to match the fronts. So yeah, without further ado, my peoples, let me get changed and let's go in the garage, start masking and taping, and get the show on the road, my peoples. Let's go. All right, here we are masking off, laying down the tape, doing some back masking in preparation for the final plastic of the car. Just making sure we only hit the engine bay with primer and paint and all that stuff. So just taking my time. A great reference. Tons of videos of this on YouTube, but shout out to Paint Society. So again, here we are putting on the plastic to the tape, cutting whatever excess off with the razor blade, tying it up at the ends. And yeah, pretty straightforward stuff, my peoples. Just took a bunch of time. It takes a long time for the masking if you really want everything to come out real nice. Like, again, the devil's in the details, so all the prep work, all the masking, the taping is really where the hard work is. The easy stuff is the spraying. You know, that's the fun stuff, to see how everything comes out. But all the preparation before is the part that sucks. So here we are with alcohol wipes, wiping everything down, using alcohol mixed with water, and then a wax and grease remover. Very, very clean throughout the whole process. Between every stage, I would push the car back and wash it down. All right, my peoples, we got the compressor set to about 50 psi. We've got the gun set to about 25 psi. And time to start mixing primer and get this done, man. The prep took so long to mask. All the masking and all the extra stuff and cleaning. It just takes forever, man. So ready to start primer just on the engine bay. We'll do the hood, and then I have a wing and everything. All the exterior parts we'll do together. But I'm just gonna focus on the engine bay right now. So let's go. All right, so mixing up the primer was a bit of a pain. I forgot to shake the can before I started stirring, so I made a mess. If I remember off the top of my head, it was 4 parts primer, 1 part slow reducer, and 1 part the activator. So 4 to 1 to 1 on the primer. So here we are adding the activator, and then you got to start moving fast and start spraying this because again, it dries pretty quick, and it'll jam up your gun if you don't clean out the gun in time. Use a strainer. This is all pretty thick stuff, like a milkshake consistency, a little bit more watery. And here we are spraying. And this was actually the first sign of progress for me. I thought I would never get to the stage of primer, but once we got the primer, it definitely was all smooth sailing after that. Did about 3 coats of primer, and then I still had to do more primer later on. But again, once you see everything one color again and looking neat, it makes it all worth it and gives you momentum to go ahead and move over to base coat and clear coat. All right, my peoples, so I just shot the first coat of primer, was able to get in the nooks and crannies pretty good. Definitely gonna have to do some sanding if I want it to look real fresh. You see little pinholes and stuff like that. I thought the 2K primer might fill some of those, but doesn't look like it. So I'll have to block sand a couple more places while I'm here. As you can see somewhere around there, a couple little pinholes. But other than that, it's all uniform one color. Not gonna get the color today, unfortunately, so I'll see you guys at when it's base coat and clear coat, probably on the weekend. Stay tuned. All right, good morning, my peoples. We are here in the garage. It's the day after primer. Did 2 coats of primer here. And then, unfortunately, the primer started to harden, so I didn't get a chance to primer the underside of the hood. So everything else I'm going to do separately. Just the engine bay I'm going to focus on right now. I'll do the little firewall piece separately. And then I'm debating on the radiator support. I have to get some special plastic primer or whatever. But anyways, I'm going to sand everything with 400 grit before I spray color. I don't know if I'm gonna try and fix these little imperfections, but I'm really not trying to spend all this time on perfection. Again, this car isn't going to SEMA. This is just for my own personal use, and it'll still look great. Doesn't have to be a perfectly shaved bay. That was never my intention. It's just to make it look decent. So
I'll give it some thought while I'm sanding and see if I want to redo some of this body work. But again, the main piece is just to get a high gloss finish on everything, as opposed to the OEM matte ugly finish. Engine bay is important to me. All right, my peoples, let's get to sanding. All right, my peoples, so we had to do some final body work. Like I said, the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm already here. It's annoying, but again, I tried to shave the bay a little bit, so I might as well at least focus on the strut towers. So I had to go down to bare metal. The 2K primer helped a lot. So pretty much everything is sanded with 400 grit. And then the areas that are bare metal are 320. I have a low spot of Bondo right here. So I'm gonna hit that up with a little bit of Bondo. And I will primer only on the spots that have bare metal and that I sanded with 320. The rest is gonna be 400. All right, my peoples, everything is ready for color paint. I have cleaned every step of the way, cleaned the garage, swept the garage, blew out the garage with the air gun. 2 coats of primer on the hood, and then sanded to 400. Again, 400 is what I'm gonna do. You can do finer if you decide to take on this project. And then same thing here. This has probably about 3 coats of primer, and then sanded with 400 very, very lightly to not break through the metal. She ready. She ready. See y'all tomorrow morning.
All right, stay tuned for part 2 where we spray base coat and clear coat. This is Roller16 checking out. Salute, my peoples. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment.